Okay, the San Diego Air and Space Museum is holding an induction ceremony for its Air and Space Hall of Fame 2019 class today.
But first, Dave Scott is taking us through the museum. Actually, it looks like the stage is being set for this big celebration. Good morning, Dave.
It really is. The production on this is going to be something. And look at the big names in aviation going to be there. Boeing, and on this side, Northrop Grumman, and a lot of the table. Every table is full. And then in just a moment, I'm going to be taking a seat right over here with a very special pilot. And he has earned his wings and helped save lives. And we're going to be speaking with David Hamilton in just a moment. So don't go anywhere. Plus, I'm going to have your weather forecast. You know, Thanksgiving is on its way. And what will the weather be like? We'll be right back.
The San Diego Air and Space Museum is holding an induction ceremony today for its Air and Space Hall of Fame 2019 class.
And Dave Scott's live at Balboa Park at the Air and Space Museum with details on this big event. Hey, Dave.
Hi, Dave.
Can't wait to hear this interview.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I'm going to give David Hamilton is just amazing, and I'm going to give him all the time that he would love because I'll just say this. We are going to get rain Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. The heaviest rain coming into San Diego on Thursday. That's Thanksgiving, and we're talking over an inch along the coast, double that into the foothills. The mountains could get 3 to 4 inches of rain. It's going to be a wet one. That said, tonight is just very, very important because they have something called the Legends of Flight Gala. It's part of the International Air and Space Hall of Fame, which is a part of the San Diego Air and Space Museum. And the museum has been around since 1963. So is the Hall of Fame. And being inducted tonight, there are, I think, about 8 inductees. And being inducted tonight is Lieutenant Colonel David Hamilton, who flew his plane over Normandy, dropping the last paratroopers really into Normandy and the big invasion. But before you get to that, first it's an honor to be sitting next to you. David, just so the folks know, how old are you now?
I'm 97.
97. And you're going to make it to 100 because you're amazing. And it's an honor to be seated next to you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for all you've done, you and everybody who didn't come back from Normandy, and we know there were a lot, and I know that sticks with you.
It does. We were very fortunate in the Pathfinders. We only lost one plane, and that plane ditched before it crossed the Normandy Peninsula, and the crew and all the paratroopers got off on the nets on the British Corvette or Canadian Corvette, and of course those poor paratroopers took quite a ribbing coming in on an LST 3 days late.
You got in just around Pearl Harbor, right?
I got in the day after Pearl Harbor. I enlisted as a private, but I wanted to fly, and in those days you needed 2 years of college or the equivalent, and the equivalent was an examination, which I arranged to take at the Stevens Institute in Hoboken, New Jersey. And luckily, because of my education in private boarding schools, I was able to pass the exam and got appointed an aviation cadet, and then sat and waited to go to Kelly Field in Texas. And then we went through pre-flight classification and everything, and then we waited. There was a jam up. Eventually, on July 4th, that night, I arrived in Grider Field, Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and the West Point upperclassmen were having their summer vacation thing there. And they became upperclassmen that night. And they said, "Enjoy yourself. Tomorrow hell starts." Well, their hell wasn't that as bad as if we'd been at the point. Their whole hazing consisted of air safety. You couldn't start your meal without the starting procedure of the Fairchild PT-19. You couldn't leave your table until you'd finished your uncoupling table and turning off your engine and everything. And everything you did at the table and everything you did outside of the table, you never walked by yourself. You had to clear your area by physically looking. And their hazing was of the type that was, I think, in my estimation, was very constructive and saved lives. So
It prepared you for what was
absolutely, because we didn't fly for the first couple of weeks. We were in ground school learning about certain things.
After Pearl Harbor, we flew into the Pacific and got into the Battle of Midway. They just came out with the movie. What was you've seen the movie? What do you think?
I saw the movie, and I thought it was a great film, and it was a touch-and-go situation, but we, by fortunate luck, sunk and burned up 4 of their carriers, and that put a balance in the Pacific at that time because none of our carriers had been lost at Pearl Harbor. They were at sea. Not that we had that many, but...
and then, right, because you had the Battle of Midway, and it was amazing because we had to dredge up the Devastators, which were good airplanes in their day, but kind of no match for the Zeros.
No, they were strictly outmatched, but they hit at a time when, thank God, the Zeros were rearming on the decks of the carriers of the Japanese, and the timing just inadvertently was for our favor. And they did their job.
Now, so we're talking 1942, and in that summer you get kind of in there. And then, when did you first get in a plane, and what kind of plane did you finally make the move into? Because, the Devastators in for the Battle of Midway.
1930 airplane, But the Fairchild PT-19 was a low-wing monoplane, and they were starting to initiate those into the primary flying schools, which had been biplane Stearmans. And Stearman was developed by Boeing. It came out of the Navy's original primary plane, was built in the Naval Gun Factory.
Now, David, talk about that day. You get in your plane, the day that you had to make the drop of all the paratroopers.
Oh, boy.
Talk about that day.
Well, that was a fascinating day. We took off about 10 o'clock at night, and double British summertime, you could still read a newspaper at night at 10 o'clock. Oh, it turned dark, but the moon was scheduled for a full moon. We went 1,500, 1,200 feet to the point of departure from the British mainland, or the island, and went down to 50 feet over the water. And my flight of 3 planes only flew 50 feet over the water all the way to where we were climbing up to our drop altitude of 800 to 900
How
feet.
close were you to the coast at that point?
At that point, we were probably about 12 miles.
We're going to leave it there and toss back to the same, and then we're going to pick up this story. So he's just approaching the coast, skimming the water, basically approaching the French coast of Normandy. And you guys, we're going to pick it up there. He's in with 2 other planes, and this is we're talking with Lieutenant Colonel David Hamilton, and he was really the last one in to drop paratroopers into Normandy. So we're going to pick it up there. We're going to toss it back to you and pick it up there when we come back.
All right, what a story.
Yeah, and what a hero. What a hero.
Mr. Rice, the paratrooper, he might have been dropped by the Lieutenant Colonel.
I know.
He was in here a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, he was.
Went back for the 75th anniversary of Normandy and
very,
jumped
very
again.
possible. Yep. Dave.
The fact that David Hamilton is still here with us, the fact that he survived, the fact that he has been an ambassador for our country, but also aviation, because that battle, a lot of people did not survive that invasion of Normandy. And he's been able to bring honor to those who did not return home. And it's a chance for us to honor.
Yeah.
Anyway,
okay.
We'll be right back with the rest of that story.
All right, sounds good, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.